Good afternoon. Based on our topic acid base, salts and gases, we will be presenting an experiment today. The title of our experiment is Acid and Bases. Our aim for this experiment is to create a natural indicator. Now, here we have some indicators like battery acid, universal indicator, phenolphthalein indicator, and then we have our universal paper. But we will not be using this. We will be using our own stuff to create a natural indicator. So some of our apparatus and materials that we have is the dropper, ethanol, hydrochloric acid. We'll be using a flower petal, a motor, and a pestle. And then we have our pH scale here.
Here.
Okay, firstly we'll be adding 1 ml of the ethanol to the flower petal. So make sure everything is
1 ml.
so now we adding it. And now we'll crush it.
You can probably put some of the ethanol.
Okay, we add 1 more drop of the ethanol.
So we are ponging or we're crushing the petals so as to get the pigment out of the petals, and the alcohol serves as a solvent in order to help this extract the pigment from the petals.
We almost finished crushing our petal, as you can see. Yeah. Now we extracting or removing the petal from the motor into the petri dish. Okay, so now we'll take our 2 filtered paper, which is now used to observe our natural indicator. As you can see, Miss is putting the filter paper to observe the natural indicator. That's one.
As you can see, the filter paper is absorbed in here, and then we will leave this to dry. So we have created our own indicator. Now to determine whether we have an acid or a base, we are going to use acids and base to see what, because each indicator has their own color chart. So we're going to determine which color is acid and which color is
base.
good. So
I'm using chlorine solution and
I'm using hydrochloric acid. This is the acid and sir has the base. So let us see what color we will have with our indicator. First we'll be using the acid. So let's see what color we would have when we apply the acid to the indicator. So in the case of having an unknown solution, we will know when it turns this color that it is an acid. So we have here the color red. So when a solution is, or when a chemical is added to our indicator and it turns red, we will know that it is an acid. Over to Sir Akeem.
okay, so now I'm now adding the base, the chlorine solution. As you can see, it turned green, so that means that we have a base.
Okay, so we have now 2 unknown solutions. how can we determine whether it is an acid or base? How can we know if this is an acid and this is an acid, or whether both are bases, or whether one is acid and one is base? So we are now going to test, and remember our color chart that we derived. If it turns red, if the solution turns red, it means that it is an acid. However, if the solution turns green, it means that it is a base. So I have here one beaker and another beaker. We name it A and B. I will be testing this one to determine whether it's an acid or base, and Sir Akeem will be doing the other one.
First, Miss will go first.
So remember, this is our indicator. As you can see, it is turning green. And based on our color chart, once it turns green, it means that this is a base.
So now, as you can see, it turned red. So that is an acid.
Okay, so in conclusion, we can now say that based on our we were able to create a natural indicator. And based on our natural indicator, we were able to determine which substance is an acid or which substance is a base, based on our indicator that we derived a color chart. So, Sir Akeem is going to quickly recap what is it we did and what results we got.
Okay, so as Miss mentioned that we create our own natural indicator, which we use the flower petal and the ethanol. As you can see, after adding our solutions, we have an acid which is red, and then we have the green, which is a base.
And based on testing our unknown solution, depending on which color it turned to, that is what we were able to determine whether it was an acid or...
Good afternoon once again. We're back again with our topic, acid, base, salt, and gases. But in this experiment, our title will be acid and base salt preparation. Our aim is to prepare a salt using an acid, hydrochloric acid, and a base, magnesium oxide.
Good. So
the principle that we'll be using is acid plus base equal salt plus water.
Good. So this is our acid, as Sir Akeem mentioned, hydrochloric acid. And we will be mixing it with a base, which is magnesium oxide. Our next material that we'll be using here is our petri dish, and we'll be using a pipette to get acid into the petri dish, and then we'll have a stirring rod to mix the two. Also, we'll be using a spatula.
Yeah, we'll remove
To get the magnesium oxide into the petri dish. After which we'll mix the two together to get the salt plus water. So the first thing,
we'll add the magnesium oxide.
So we're now going to add our hydrochloric acid in the magnesium oxide. But before we do that, we need to measure it. Now we have in here 6 milligrams of So we are now going to add our hydrochloric acid into our magnesium oxide to create the salt plus water. Before we do that, however, we need to measure the hydrochloric acid. So we're going to do it in a ratio of 6:6. We're going to add 6 milliliters of hydrochloric acid to mix with the 6 grams of magnesium oxide. So we're going to use a dropper.
Pull up from there.
So we've added our hydrochloric acid, and to ensure that it is 6 milliliters, we're reading the bottom meniscus. We need like one more drop. Yes. So we have 6 milliliters of hydrochloric acid. We will now put it into our petri dish with the magnesium oxide, and we're going to use a stirring rod to mix the two together. This is going to create our salt plus water. However, we cannot see the salt because the salt is a solvent, so it dilutes or it mixes with the solution. Now have a solution because the salt is a soluble salt, so that means that we cannot see the actual salt. But in order to get the salt, what we can do, we can use the method of evaporation.
Can we conclude that so in conclusion, we can say by using the principle acid plus base equals salt plus water can give us a salt solution. Thank you for watching.
Okay, welcome to our final experiment on acid, base, salts, and gases. In this experiment, our title is reacting a metal with an acid. Our aim for this experiment is to test if hydrogen gas is present. The materials we need for this experiment are granulated zinc, battery acid, and the apparatus is a measuring cylinder, a glowing splint, and a
Pipette.
Good.
Add the sulfuric acid to the measuring cylinder.
We are measuring about 4 ml of the acid. Remembering that we're testing at eye level, using the bottom meniscus for measurement. There we have 4 ml of acid. We are now going to add the granulated zinc into the acid, and we have a reaction there. So we are now testing for the hydrogen, which is our gas.
You hear that?
And that sum indicates that hydrogen is present.
As you can see.
So in conclusion, mixing granulated zinc and the acid gives us a reaction. Now, when we mix those two together, it creates a gas, or gas is present inside. And in order to determine which gas was present, we use the glowing splint in order to determine which gas is present. And from the popping sound that we got, we were able to tell that hydrogen gas is present.
Thank you.